I suggest you put us up on your wall. Maybe it will help you get used to our faces because we will keep coming until you do your job.
Kevin continues his spiral, Randall pays Deja's mom a visit, and Jack and Rebecca fight to adopt Randall. Let's break down Season 2, Episode 7 of This Is Us right here on What Happened. Hey, you lovely people, Lisa here, and welcome back to another episode of my TV recap show. This week's episode of This Is Us, titled The Most Disappointed Man, deals with making choices and circumstances and, thinking you know what's best for someone when you might not, or just being quick to judge. At least that's kind of what I took away from this episode. Now, before I get to Randall and the flashbacks in this episode, let's touch on Kevin and Kate's storyline, since all the others are kind of intertwined. First, Kevin is still taking his pills and drinking a lot, which is messing up his relationships, especially with Sophie. In fact, he's pushed back going to see her in New York 3 times that she's beginning to think he's getting cold feet about moving there to be with her and wanting to be with her. Before packing and heading to the airport, Kevin pops over to Toby and Kate, where they reveal to him in an adorable scene that they're having a baby. Kevin is out of it, but eventually realizes what they just told him and says he's happy for them, but at the end of the scene you can definitely see there's like a look of sadness on his face. Now, to make everything right with Sophie, Kevin decides to stop at the jewelry store to buy her a ring because it seems like something his dad would do after Jack messed up with Rebecca. Kevin's rambling to the clerk about how he really loves Sophie and he has to do something big, and he ends up buying 3 rings for her because he can't decide on one, so hey, why not? Let her choose. When he arrives in New York, he goes to the hospital, but Sophie has already left, so he goes to the bathroom to pop a few pills while he sits and waits for her. He ends up falling asleep in the chair and having a dream, or rather for him, a nightmare, where he sees his future with Sophie and they have a child, and he's basically seeing himself as not a good dad. Kevin is now shaken up by this and shows up at Sophie's doorstep and pretty much breaks up with her by saying he doesn't know how to be a good father or husband and he's an empty shell inside, and all those things that he said on her doorstep before and the romantic things and gestures, it wasn't him. He was acting. The future that he sees for them, essentially he says it's a nightmare, and he's not trying to hurt Sophie, but you know what, sorry pal, you already did, and this is kind of like strike 2, right? Maybe strike 3? She ends up slamming the door in his face, and it's just like, Kevin, what are you doing, man? She is so good for you. At least that's what I think. He's known Sophie since they were kids, so you think that he'd be good at opening up to her and she might be one of the only people besides Kate that he really does, but I'm kind of guessing not. Like, to me, I feel like Kevin feels this pressure to live up to Jack, and he now sees how happy Kate and Toby are, and they're having a family, and they're going to be really good at it. And Randall and Beth, they're happy, and they have a family, and they're, really good at it. And he's just the sad, lonely guy left in the corner trying to pretend like he has all his stuff together, but he doesn't, and he doesn't seem to know how to reach out for help. So, like, while the other kids got Jack's good qualities, maybe, he's the one who seems to have ended up with all the addictions and the emotional problems. I don't know, maybe there was just always way too much pressure on him when it came to football, because that's how he made Jack proud, and when that ended, maybe he didn't know how to relate to his dad after that. I'm not sure, but I really am excited to finally see more of Kevin's storyline, so hopefully that is coming soon so we can find out just why he's so cold. Moving on to the happier storyline, and my favorite of this episode, Kate and Toby. Now, they're working on revealing their happy news to people, and their first was Kevin, and next up is Toby's mom. But Toby's kind of freaking out because his mom is super religious, and he's scared to tell her because she pretty much cried when he said that Kate and him were moving in together. Kate has a solution to their problems, though. She just tells Toby, let's go to the courthouse and get married, and Toby's like, you know what? Okay, let's do this. So they go to the courthouse to get the license, and the clerk is explaining how it's all going to work, and they'll come back tomorrow with a witness, and as Kate is talking to the guy, Toby kind of is watching her, and he realizes, wait, something isn't right here. Kate ends up telling Toby that she's excited, though, about this courthouse wedding because they can avoid a lot of stuff like spending a ton of money and getting told she can't get the perfect wedding dress she wants in her size, and also avoiding people at the wedding bringing up stuff like, oh, I bet your father would have loved to have been here, he would be so proud of you, that kind of stuff. Toby is now seeing kind of what's going on, and he goes home and he seeks some advice from the perfect person, Jack. Yeah, he has a full-on conversation with Jack's urn full of ashes, and it's one of my favorite Toby scenes. He basically says that he knows his BS meter is going off because Kate actually loves weddings. Like, she takes notes while watching Say Yes to the Dress, so this courthouse thing isn't something that he thinks she wants to do. so he asks Jack for some advice, and it seems like Jack gives him some in his own special way. When Kate returns home, Toby is standing there in his hoodie being all nervous, and he says that he has told his mom about the baby. He then starts to play landside and proposes to Kate, and at this point, I would even marry Toby. Like, seriously, can I find my own Toby somewhere? Toby says that they can get married at the courthouse, but if there's even a sliver that she wants the big wedding, that she deserves it and they should do it. And he knows that everyone won't be able to be at the wedding that she wants at the wedding, but seeing Kate happy with the wedding of her dreams is something that he knows Jack would have wanted. And Toby knows this because, well, he asked him, which Kate is like, wait, you asked my dad? And she's really impressed, and it's just a happy, sweet scene, and it seems like they're gonna have the big wedding, and yeah, more points for you, Toby. Good for you. Moving on to the other storylines, Randall and the two flashbacks. They all connect on the same theme of choices. William is back, and he's at the age when he gave Randall up as a baby. He's been arrested and is in court. The judge points out that William has no previous record, so he finds William's arrest disappointing. William responds by saying that while the judge may be disappointed, he himself is actually the most disappointed man he's ever met. He's lost his mom, his girls, there's guys selling drugs everywhere, he can't avoid it. And you know what? He's okay with being locked up because there's nothing left in the world for him. William does get locked up, and as he's about to go to his sentence hearing, the judge actually wants to meet with him ahead of time. But the lawyer says it's not a good idea, but you know what? William agrees to hear the judge out. The judge points out how he's handed out sentences for 5 years for like a stolen TV or something to 10 years, and you know, it's stuff that he didn't want to do. He sadly doesn't make the rules, but he knows the endings to each of the stories of those people he's sentenced, and they're not even written yet. He says that when William called himself the most disappointed man, it actually stuck with him because he says he feels like he's a close second for that title because he's the man who writes the terrible stories and can't change the endings, so it's a horrible disappointment. The judge wants to find William a different ending, so he's going to take a chance on him, but he says if William ever finds himself about to head towards that bad ending, to remember the judge's ugly old mug. His words, not mine, and make a different choice. So the judge does take that risk on William, and William gets set free, and instead of going to that street corner to get drugs, which he looks at, he goes the other way. We then flash to older William getting the news that there's really nothing they can do about his cancer, so he should try to enjoy what time he has left. He returns home, and we see that he's bought some heroin and is about to go back to his old ways. He even sees the vision of the judge sitting across from him, but this time seeing the judge isn't working. Like he changed his life around up until now, but he still ended up with the bad ending, this time dying of cancer. Well, as William is about to do those drugs, there's knocking at the door. That causes him to kind of rush and hide the drugs, and he goes downstairs, and it happens to be the day Randall showed up on his doorstep. So if it wasn't for Randall choosing to knock on William's door that day, he might have never met his father. For Jack, Rebecca, and the big three, we see them in their first year of having Randall, having home visits from the social worker and trying to be the best parents. The social worker is very impressed with them and gives them a glowing recommendation for their file, but they still have to go before the judge, who's going to ask them a bunch of questions. Rebecca and Jack think that they nailed this whole thing. They're excited to commemorate everything, so they go to get a family portrait taken, and the photographer points out how the different skin tones of the family make it hard to balance the light for the photos. When the family shows up in the courtroom, the judge asks if there's social workers there because he has questions for her. Now Jack and Rebecca are confused because they got a glowing recommendation, but the judge says he wants to see the social worker and ask questions, so they reschedule the court date for 3 weeks later. Out in the lobby, Jack and Rebecca take a chance on approaching the judge, what they're not supposed to do, to find out what the problem is. The judge expresses that he doesn't think Randall belongs in their home. He belongs with a black family. He doesn't think Randall will be equipped with the tools he needs in life as a grown black man if he stays in the Pearson home, and the judge says that he's not changing his opinion, and he'll see them at the next court date. When Rebecca gets the family portraits back, she sees what the photographer was talking about and that he's right. She has a solution though. She cuts Randall out of one photo and pastes it to the other to make the perfect family photo, and then she sends it to the judge along with a letter. She explains that Randall is their son, and yes, some things might be more difficult for them.
The Pearsons keep at it. We don't stop. So I suggest you put us up on your wall. Maybe it will help you get used to our faces because we will keep coming until you do your job.
When Jack and Rebecca finally go back to their court date, they're informed that the judge has recused himself from the case, so they're getting a new judge, and they actually don't know if this is good or bad. It actually turns out to be a good thing as their new judge signs off on the adoption. We then see the judge from William's case and the original judge from the adoption case together at the end of the episode asking about each other's days.
Do anything good lately? I don't know. You? No idea.
Well, if they could actually see how their choices played out, they would probably breathe a sigh of relief and know that they ended up making the right choice. For Randall, it's time to take Deja to visit her mom at the jail. And it's going to be a special visit because Deja and her mom aren't going to be separated by glass this time. After they've been waiting for a while, Linda, Deja's social worker, ends up informing Randall that Deja's mom opted to not see her, and even though the visits are mandatory, she's allowed to opt out. Randall is pissed but goes back to Deja and makes something up saying that there was a mix-up and the visit wasn't cleared. Deja's upset, but she asks for her purse because she's been saving up all her allowance to give to her mom so her mom can get what she needs in prison. When Randall returns home, Beth is heated over Deja's mom disappointing Deja like that. Beth decides that as long as Deja is with them, she's not going back to the jail and they won't have anything to do with her mom. Randall decides to go back and visit Deja's mom and give her a piece of his mind and kind of figure out what was happening. We find out that Deja's mom canceled on the meeting because she was jumped and didn't want Deja to see her like that. Randall tells Deja's mom that it's the choices that she made that got her in prison and that she shouldn't focus on what him and his wife have or what they're doing, but what's best for Deja. To which her mom responds with, "Oh, you think you're the best for her?" And Randall points out, yeah, because he's on the other side of the glass. Well, to that, Deja's mom says that her ex, the guy that got her into this mess, was also one of those guys sitting on the other side of the glass. Like, she was actually trying to make her life right when she got him. She also points out that Randall is on the other side of the glass because things broke his way.
Don't you dare say I'm in here by choice. People who have choices say that mess.
She then tells Randall thanks for looking after Deja, but she's going to be coming back for her.
And if you want to know what's best for her, it's me. And the second I get out of here, I'm coming back for her.
You're gonna have to go through me.
I've been through worse.
When Randall returns home, Beth is doing crafts with the girls. They then go off together and he tells Beth that Deja's mom wants her back and that they're starting to fall for this kid, and he's been thinking a lot about William being lost and alone and missing him before they met and meeting him. And then he thinks about his parents who fiercely protected him, wondering their whole lives if they did right by him. And he's thinking about all those people making choices about his life before he can make choices for himself. He tells Beth that now they're those people, those adults making the complicated choices about that little girl's life. All of this has made him think, and he ended up giving Deja's mom their number for her to be able to call Deja that night. And we see the phone call happen and Deja just looks really happy. So essentially, Randall realizes that circumstances sometimes get in the way of the choices made. As a whole, this episode was a pretty slow one. My favorite part, though, was Toby proposing to Kate because it was just pretty lighthearted, and the rest of the episode pretty heavy, but also, in a sense, kind of more boring. The ending, though, when three of the other storylines come together, it was very well done and beautiful in that sense, but still not one of my favorite episodes. Let's hope that things pick up though next week, and let's see how that plays out with the promo.
Next Tuesday, the first of 3 special episodes about the Big Three.
My old high school wants to honor me.
You coming back here to get this award? We are all very proud.
Journey through the moments in their lives that defined them.
There he is, Kevin Pearson's superstar.
How you feeling, champ? I can come back from this.
Okay, so now we're getting somewhere. It looks like each of the Big Three will get their own episodes focusing on them, and next episode is Kevin's. And we'll finally get to see that football injury play out and maybe get more insight into his relationship with Jack and why he's such an empty shell of a guy. All I know is I'm sad that he really messed things up with Sophie again because she does seem good for him. She really loves him, and I think he obviously really loves her. He's loved her since he was a child, but he's messed up multiple times, so I don't even know if she's going to give him another chance, even if he does clean up his act. Now I want to hear from you. What were your favorite and least favorite parts of this week's episode? Do you think Randall made the right choice when it comes to Deja and her mom? And what do you think Jack whispered in Kate's ear in the judge's office? Because the producers have said it might come back into play later. Also, what do you think is in store for Kevin in the next episode, and what do you want to see in Kate and Randall's specific episodes? Let me know, then you can click right over here for my recent interview with Hannah Zeal, who plays teenage Kate, or my recent Once Upon a Time interview. Thanks so much for hanging out with me for another This Is Us recap. I'll see you real soon.